Welcome to the Red Hot Reds podcast, presented by Ohio Sports Talk. This is the podcast for Reds fans, by Reds fans. And today, we're getting down to the last days of spring training, Ricky. We're going to be previewing the potential 26-man roster on opening day. We got some guys that have solidified their spot. Some guys, it's up for grabs. So we're going to break that all down in this episode. Ricky, you ready?
Let's go.
This is the Red Hot Reds podcast. Here are your hosts, Ricky Logan and Roger Straz.
Welcome to the show. That's Ricky Logan. I'm Roger Straz. Welcome back. If you've tuned in through the last couple episodes, we've been breaking down the Reds roster from the pitchers to the infield to the outfield. And now we're going to be working on the 26-man roster, which is it's kind of an honor to make the 26-man roster to an opening day. Last year we had some controversy with that 26-man. Who is it going to be? I don't know if Tito's going to have that same kind of mentality where he's going to leave that 26 spot open and make all the sports writers and sports content makers in Cincinnati go crazy on who he's going to pick. And all we know for sure, Ricky, in 2025, Bubba Thompson's not going to be that 26-man. Salute to Bubba. I think he's playing college football. I think he re-enlisted. And so he's living out his dreams out right now, where he may be. We want to also welcome in anybody new to the show. This is the Red Hot Reds podcast presented by Ohio Sports Talk. We're thankful to Doug and Jordan for this platform, lending it to us. We're here to bring you Reds content throughout the 2025 season. And please subscribe, like, follow. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Also, we have this podcast that's available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever you get podcasts. So we're thankful that you're here. And Ricky, since we're talking about 26-man roster and opening day rosters, the Scoreboard Stumper is focused on that as well. Since 2012, there's been 6 guys that have been named to that opening day starting roster. They have a starting position in the starting 9. And they've been named 5 times or more. Who are those 6 guys?
I feel relatively confident about this one. Joey Votto, easy one.
Votto, overall, do you know how many times he was named starting first baseman for your Cincinnati Reds?
All time or since 2012?
Well, let's go all time because it's since 2012. It's like a pretty good number too. Just some extra credit.
11.
11? More.
15.
One more down.
14.
14 times consecutively too, I believe. He's named to the opening day starting roster. So there's one. Votto. Who else you got?
Phillips.
Yeah, your guy Brandon Phillips. He did it 10 times. Opening day at second base.
Up for the Hall of Fame this year, I believe.
Yeah. I'm interested to see if the votes, if there's going to be I think, is it only to season ticket holders or I forget how they do the
I think it's what it is. Season ticket holders and owners or something. I don't know.
Maybe a bit of the media as well.
Yeah.
All right. Look forward to that. Who else you got?
As Tom Brennan would say, Eugenio Suarez.
Yes, Eugenio Suarez. And he actually is a 5-timer, so this Scoreboard Stumper is kind of creative for him. 5 times in a row. All right, who else you got?
Jay Bruce.
Correct. He did it 8 times, named 8 times opening day starter.
Where am I at?
You got 4 out of the 6 guys. Votto, Phillips, Suarez, and Bruce.
Yeah.
I'll give you a hint. Positions.
There's not many newer. Give me some positions. See if I can get it.
One of these guys played the outfield, center field.
Billy Hamilton.
Yep, Billy. Billy did 5 times in a row as well. I think 14 to 19, something like that.
Yeah. And the last one is where I got stumped because I kept thinking that like Scott Rowland retired, so it wasn't him.
Yeah.
There wasn't a catcher. I think Barnhart was 4.
Right.
Mesoraco was like 2. Stevenson's been the last 3 except for this year.
Right.
Oh man.
You need a position hint?
Sure.
Shortstop. All-star.
Oh, Zach Cozart.
Zach Cozart, 6 times in a row. Name starter, Zach Cozart. So you got all of them. Good stuff, Ricky. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, a lot of these guys, did it for a long time. So we're hoping that the guys we're going to talk about next are going to be multiple times, at least 5 times, 5 seasons, 6 seasons, maybe even 14 seasons in a row named starter to their position for opening day. Francona, kind of like we talked about with naming the starting 4 rotation, named his starting 4 opening lineup hitters. So I don't know if there's, again, like a common practice or not. I think at the very least, it shows a level of confidence, and it shows that he believes in these guys that he's named. Like, he named the starters, Hunter, Nick Martinez, Lodolo, and also, Brady Singer. Like, that shows, okay, those are our 4 guys that are going to lead the charge. Same deal, I think, here with Friedel, McLean, Ellie, and Hayes hitting 1 through 4. What are your thoughts with Francona naming these 4 guys to the starting lineup?
I like it. I think it's a good variety. It's going to go lefty, righty, no matter what, or it could go lefty, righty, depending on the situation. But yeah, I mean, there's some people out there that are saying that, they want their best hitter in their lineup to bat second, and I think they have that. I think McLean is their best hitter. And I'm not saying he's not the best talent, because obviously that's Ellie De La Cruz. But Matt McLean had the most consistent year in 2023 out of all the young guys called up. And, can he replicate that coming back from injury and being away for so long? Time will tell. But, I mean, he has nearly a 300 average. He had almost 20 home runs in his rookie season. So I think Francona is really showing he's got a lot of faith in Matt McLean. Like, would you do anything different?
No, yeah, I think you're right on with your take on McLean. I think Red's Twitter, Red's Facebook, and all those places can be pretty toxic, and we're really kind of not sure why they put McLean second and Ellie third. And it makes total sense, because you think about McLean, I think he's got less holes in his swing. So, like, usually, you want your best hitter to get the most at bats, and you want a table setter to start off, the game well. So I don't think you should put like Ellie first and McLean second. I think the way that Francona's thinking it through, you got the table setter Friedel, you got your most consistent, least holes in his swing at the second position, who's, I think, Just Baseball and some other publications have been predicting McLean's going to have a pretty good bounce back season after missing all last year. So it makes total sense to have him at second. And then the guy with the most potential, which, obviously he's known for his speed, but there's a possibility that Ellie, could even grow even more into his power. He's got 4 home runs already in spring training this year. So he might be the number 3 hitter that, that the stereotypical 3 hitter is that gets 30, 40 home runs a year. We'd love to see that for him, obviously. I think the thought process behind this lineup also shows a lot of confidence in Austin Hayes. And his numbers are pretty decent for spring training as well. 39 at-bats, 308 batting average, 3 home runs, 12 RBIs. That sounds like a number 4 hitter to me in a lineup. So what are your thoughts on Ellie and Hayes being the 3 and 4?
I think it's a good, if Ellie can stretch a single into a triple, just from stealing bases or even legging it out. And if Hayes can be that guy to drive him in, I mean, Hayes could rack up 100 RBIs easy if everything works out. So yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of faith in Hayes. He said it publicly, and he's healthy. It looks like so. Yeah, I think Hayes can be that thumper that we really needed. And he's not the guy that brings in ticket holders, but he's that guy that can be that consistent, hard nosed, no batting glove wearing guy. So I like it. I'm pretty satisfied with 1 through 4.
Yeah, I really think that Hayes can be that steal that we talked about in other episodes, like just based on his spring training numbers. And we know that's not going to always directly translate. When you go north, it gets colder and all like that. But the seeds are there planted, especially with Friedel, McLean, and Ellie, and how Hayes's like spring trainings have been. It seems like, it made me too obvious. Like let's put our first 4 hitters are going to be our best 4 hitters that have been hitting in spring training, right? Like outside of like some other guys that have kind of shown this spring training, those 4 guys have been the most consistent, and they kind of have locked down their positions as well. Like we know Friedel starting center fielder, McLean starting second baseman, Ellie starting shortstop, like that, and then Hayes left field. Like we kind of know those have been kind of locked down at least since the start of this month in March. What does that mean for the rest of the lineup, do you think? Like who do you think follows these 4 studs, if you will?
If I had to guess, maybe sticking with maybe a platoon kind of thing. Not really. I don't want to say platoon, but just lefty righty. I think Candelario makes sense to bat 5th, just being that switch hitter following Hayes, and then probably Encarnacion Strand following him, and then a combination of we need a right fielder. I'd probably say Fraley, and then Trevino being your catcher. And I think Lux fits in there. I just don't know where. I think he hit a home run today, didn't he?
Yep, first home run in the spring.
So I like Lux a lot. It's hard to fit him in without taking away guys developing too. So I mean, he could be that guy that could play every day and give some different guy a day off every day. He could play second, he could play short, he could play third, he could play left, and he can even DH if you needed him to. So I think he's going to fill that role of Spencer Steer while he's out. So, yeah, what do you think 5 through 9 is going to be?
Yeah, that's pretty close. The question becomes the positional battle at 3rd for me. I can see Lux starting at 3rd on opening day, or I can see Candelario starting at 3rd opening day. It kind of maybe is matchup dependent. Candelario being the older player, I can see him being the DH and also being the switch hitter, so he can be more valuable bat matchup wise. So having Lux kind of bat 9th and play 3rd is not a bad idea in my view right now. Definitely like CES there after the lefty righty matchup with, I think, Fraley. I think you had him then CES. So like the lefty righty, alternating type lineup is going to be pretty good. And I think we know for sure Logan Webb is the starter for San Francisco. So we know definitely there's going to be a lot of, opportunities for, I think, Lux to possibly start, and Candelario with his switch hitting and all that. We'll see how the matchup goes for CES with that. But, I think he still has done enough to earn the first base spot. And that's what we kind of want. Like, I think as a fan base, I think between me and you, we want that solidity in like first base. Like we want that guy to know who's going to be there. As much as it's nice to platoon and get guys rest and stuff like that, much like how we know Ellie and McLean are starting at shortstop and second, and we know Friedel starting in center, it's good to know who you got at first, who you got now at catcher with the extension for Trevino, which is great, and we may touch on that a little bit later. But it's kind of like, I don't know, I guess as a fan, having ambiguity of who's going to be starting, who's going to be there, it's kind of frustrating. It kind of wears at your confidence that we don't have the guys. And, injuries happen. So that's not necessarily to any of the players' fault or, the front office. They can't predict when that's going to happen. But if you got guys that are there consistently and you can have that attachment to go to the ballpark and, Ellie's starting today or CES is at first today, like there's like that relationship that kind of forms to the younger players, the older, fan base can get to know these guys and see them day in, day out and see them perform. So there's some value to that. And I think having, the first four guys named, and I think I don't know, unless something changes between now and the next week or so, we kind of know more or less what the 26 man is going to look like and what the starting nine is going to look like, which is, I think, a positive, because sometimes there's been probably some red seasons where you're like, who are we putting out there today? Or, you know what I mean? Like, or not necessarily like opening day. Opening day hopefully is pretty consistent to know.
Yeah.
As we saw through the scoreboard stumper, there's some guys that consistently made that starting lineup. And hopefully this kind of lineup that we're talking about today is going to be one of those lineups that we're like in the scoreboard stumpers of the future. Like Ellie started 10 straight at shortstop or whatever, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. So to put it bluntly, I think we've got the guys, and I think we've got the guys that we can trust in those spots. It's just a matter of executing once we get out there and play those games that are for real.
Yeah, for sure. And the hardest part is guys staying healthy. And losing Steer and losing Stevenson and Abbott just got placed on the IL. Like it's hard to think about because you don't want to see guys out. Are you concerned about any other guys, or are you concerned about Trevino having to fill that role of being the everyday catcher for at least probably the first month?
No, I feel like the extension was kind of like, I don't know. I've been talking him up. I think you've been talking him up and having this great framing. At least it'd be good to have a good framing catcher at least in 2025 before they go to the ABS system next year. So hopefully this year we get the most out of Trevino framing some strikes for Hunter, framing some strikes for Lodolo with that his off speed pitches. So at the very least we'll have hopefully a good 2025 with Jose. But the Reds believe in him enough to extend his contract. I think it was another 3 years, $15 million if I'm remembering right. So I don't necessarily want Stevenson to be gone for long. I think his bat is valuable. I think his defense has improved as well. And if you got Trevino coming off the bench in late innings to be a defensive catcher when they need it the most, I think you'd rather kind of have that as opposed to him playing 130 games behind the plate. So there's that. The other injuries I think are more concerning. Steer. We've already, discussed the outfield and how the Reds outfield unit is probably their weakest unit of the roster. And, Hayes definitely could change our minds about that if he comes out and has a good April, May, and June and kind of, gives that production that the outfield kind of desperately needs. We definitely would like to have Abbott in the starting five as well. Carson Spires, though, his spring has been great, so it makes his injury less kind of a big miss. But according to the injury reports, they're not going to be missing a lot of time. We got Abbott possibly coming back in May or April. We got Stevenson, April or May. So it's not a McLean situation where we're not seeing these guys for a whole year or half the year or anything like that. So at least it's manageable injuries. You know what I mean? And the thing with kind of Abbott that we've touched on is that once he kind of gets to a certain innings limit or a certain part of the season, he starts to really fade. So if he's not ready till May, not saying that because of injuries, but just because they're ramping him up slowly, in the minors and whatnot, I don't think that's the worst thing. Getting him back in May and June when the Reds usually tend to heat up and win a bunch of ball games, as they notoriously do in the month of June. That won't be the worst thing either. I guess, how do you feel about the injury situation? Do you think it's manageable? Do you think there's something more to it, or what's your take?
I think the best thing about it is not getting that David Bell answer on somebody's injury. We're so, oh, he's gonna be fine, and then tomorrow he has surgery. I am so thankful we got Terry. I'm gonna say it every day for the rest of this season. I am so thankful we have Terry Francona as our manager. He's not giving a timetable. He's just saying Tyler Stevenson has an oblique strain. He's going to be out. That's it. There's nothing to it. And that's all there needs to be said. We don't need to know. I mean, the only people that need to know are internal. And that's it. You know, I think we're going to get by. I think Stevenson, we're going to probably miss his offense. We're not really going to miss his defense over Trevino. I think Trevino is a better defensive catcher by a long shot. I just talking about injuries to Abbott. I just put out an article on Carson Spires yesterday, and I took a little heat for posting the starting five rotation on Facebook. You know, Red's Facebook can be pretty toxic, and they're why isn't Rhett Lauder our guy? Why isn't Rhett Lauder our guy? Chase Petty, and I'm like, Carson Spires last year from May and June was like 5-2 with like a 3.6 ERA in like 7 starts. And then pre-All-Star, he had an ERA of like 3 point, like it was low threes. So, I mean, he's serviceable. He's not going to be your 5th starter all season. It's just not going to happen. We got too many guys coming up and way too much talent beyond that. Like I said, Chase Petty's probably going to be in the rotation this year. It's pretty likely. And Rhett Lauder is probably going to be in the rotation this year. So that leaves 7 guys to start. So they're going to have to figure that out down the long run. But injury-wise, I mean, like you said about Abbott, that makes perfect sense. Like, he's notorious in August and September for falling apart. He's got a career ERA over 7 in those 2 months. But his ERAs from March until August or July is like 3.2. Like, he's incredible. When he got called up, he went like 3 games without giving up a run.
Mm-hmm.
I think he set the franchise record for most consecutive innings without allowing a run when he got called up.
Yeah.
Like, he's got middle of the rotation stuff. It's just we've got so much talent ahead of him. Like, you got Hunter Green, who's a Cy Young candidate. Like, I don't know. I'm just excited about it.
Yeah.
Steer, I'm really worried about Steer only because he's that super utility guy. And if he's not able to hit, like if his injury is going to affect him to the point where he can't hit, because I guess there was talks about him being his full-time DH.
Mm.
But he hasn't really hit in spring training either when he did play. So with him being out, I'm worried about that only because he's that second right-handed power bat that we have, and he can play anywhere. You can put him anywhere in the infield, anywhere in the outfield, and I think he's fine. But yeah, Steer, he's a 90 plus ERA, RBI guy, 20 plus home runs, 20 stolen bases. He's a guy you want in the lineup. I just sucks, man. This is his first time in his career at any level he's had to be on the injured list.
Well, he's not on the injured list yet. He's listed day to day. They're doing some cortisone shots or something like that with him to kind of try to get through the pain. I'm not sure exactly what their plan with him as of yet. Hopefully it becomes a little more clear. I mean, we're only, a couple more days left of spring training, and we're, less than a week from opening day. That hopefully it becomes clear soon, because it'd be good to know. Talk about kind of obscuring the truth that David Bell would do all the time. I don't think I've heard anything definitive about Steer's injury or that he's on the IL. Like the thing with Abbott is that they just announced that recently that he's on the IL, and I was like, oh, okay. So he's still kind of, he was working through spring training a little bit, not throwing as much, but I wasn't sure if that was going to hold him back or not. Apparently it is, which is good to know, just because it provides some clarity with that 5th starter situation. And we'll touch on that more later. But I think with the injuries that we have so far, I feel they still are decently manageable, unless something happens with Steer that becomes like a very ongoing thing. I don't want to jinx it. And, it doesn't necessarily echo of like McLean's injury, because it was pretty clear that McLean's shoulder was messed up in spring training and they had to do something about it. It definitely is something we don't want to linger on too long, because he's just a guy that's always around. So not having him there would definitely it'd be a hole in the lineup, a hole in the squad. And, he definitely, didn't have the greatest sophomore season, but there was a lot of guys that played a lot worse. And he definitely is a guy you need in the lineup for that power, for those RBI situation. If he wasn't injured, I think he probably would be the fourth guy behind Ellie, depending on how the spring training, looked for him, if he was healthy, just hypothetically. But, I think we've got a raised floor, like we've talked about, in many positions, which is helpful when there are some injuries. It's just a matter of now, like I said, the guys that are up the big league club, that they execute when they get their opportunities, And, speaking of guys at the big league club, some guys have been assigned down to AAA, and some guys that we're not so sure if they're going to be with the big league club or they're not. And obviously we got some guys here. We know for sure that Benson was just optioned to AAA recently. It seems like a situation where hopefully he's going to be working on his confidence, hopefully working on a lot of things in a swing, working out consistency, because he has been a guy that, if we've touched on before, very high highs and very low lows, and not being an above average outfielder defensively hurts him, because if he's not hitting, then there's a lot of like, what are we doing here? He doesn't hit lefties well, really hard. Like it's a situation where he's got that talent, and I think you even named it. He's got that 30-30 potential. It's just figuring out maybe the stuff between the ears and putting it all together more consistently. So we really hope that we'll keep eyes on him throughout the season, give updates, throughout the season about him, hopefully. And hopefully we're hearing his name being called up sooner than later. What are your thoughts about Benson or any other guys that may have got optioned to AAA or may get optioned?
Yeah, Benson, I'm really rooting for the guy. He's one of my favorite guys on the team just to cheer for. He's such a good person. He seems like a really good clubhouse guy. All the guys seem to love him. I did see a Mark Sheldon report today. I think it was less than an hour ago, that there is a chance that the last three guys for the rotation, 3 out of 4, are Alexis Diaz, Graham Ashcraft, Ian Jabot, and Joe Lasorsa. So, if Diaz was to get optioned down to AAA, we got a closer hole to fill. And it seems like Graham Ashcraft wants to fill it. I think he's a good fit. I mean, he's got the stuff for it. He's got the attitude for it. He's got that really fast sinker cutter combination. I like it a lot. I think I saw where he added a curveball to his mix in the offseason. I want to see him at least in the back of the bullpen. I think him in the back end just brings energy. Kind of like, I'm not comparing him to him, but kind of like Chapman and Cordero back in like 2009 through like 12. Yeah, and then like Sam Moll, like we got some lefties already. Where does he fit? He's been really consistent, but he kind of struggled a little bit last year. We got Suter, Rogers, and who's the third lefty I'm missing here? I guess it is Moll. Yeah, but we got some righties that can fit in. Who do you see, I guess, going on about AAA? Who do you see maybe as someone that could be optioned down?
Yeah, this has kind of been like a changing subject, or at least a changing report all over, because there were some reports that I saw that said The coaching staff was not too pleased with the shape that Ashcraft and Mole came in with into spring training, and kind of how they can't really haven't worked themselves into shape, at least to their liking as of yet. So there was talks about potentially putting Mole and Ashcraft in the AAA. I don't know, some sort of punishment, or just to say, hey, work your stuff out to get ready to be a part of the big league ball club. Now we're getting reports that the struggles of Alexis Diaz, his velocity not getting back to where it used to be 2023 and before. If he started in the minors, yeah, it totally now all of a sudden we're needing a Mole, we're needing an Ashcraft to be a part of the club on opening day on a 26-man roster. So I don't know. Hopefully there's some clarity coming in. Like you said, hopefully your plain speaking manager will be able to clarify all this. Hopefully it's not some sort of, ongoing thing where, these guys are not performing the way they should, and they're constantly, there's just lack of consistency of who's who and what position and whatnot. We also got Scott Barlow potentially as a closer. We've touched on that before, that he's got closer, at least capability. Hasn't done it since 2023 or 2022, I believe, with Kansas City. So it might not, as we, I think, talked about pre-show, is that it's not about necessarily always your stuff. Having great stuff is awesome. Like, if you've got Chapman type stuff, you're going to be more likely than not be at least, able to strike out a bunch of guys and hopefully get the job done. But I think it's more of a mentality type of thing. You hear about that from the greats, from Rivera, from Trevor Hoffman. You know what I mean? Those guys, they took it. They just had a different mentality than most probably relief pitchers out there. And it seems like a good candidate for that would be Graham Ashcraft. We've touched on it. I think you even shared a quote that he's got that mentality to at least accept the role, get into the bullpen, and at least contribute to ball club best as possible. It's going to be interesting. It kind of shakes up our 26-man roster prediction, which maybe we can get into later. But like, if we're thinking Diaz is down at AAA, yeah, it becomes kind of a very interesting proposition. Do you have any other thoughts on potentially who could be the back end closer?
I like the two between Barlow and Ashcraft. I think Rogers could be a dark horse, just because I think he has good ground ball stuff and can get guys out. Going back to that Ashcraft quote, he said, "I'm excited about it. It's something that's been going around for a while. They originally called me up. That was what they kind of wanted me to do. Then I just had to fill a role when Connor Overton got hurt in 2022. That just kind of stuck. I'm ready to see what it's like. I feel like my personality type, I'm going to fit it pretty well. We'll roll with the punches, get it going, and see what happens." I don't know about you, but that fires me up. That's the kind of guy I want in the back of my bullpen.
Yeah, for sure. I think, it might be your best take, and you might need to start putting that out on the socials. Clip it, all those other takes that you had about, Ashcraft being the future closer, and now possibly the current closer. So ride that all the way to the sky if you can. But I think the one thing that we also kind of touched on is that we weren't necessarily sure what the bullpen would look like, but we had a pretty good sense of what our starters were going to look like up until that Abbott injury. So now that we kind of got some clarification, some ability to see what we got for our starters, Carson Spires, I believe, is now the number 5 guy, and his spring has been pretty good. I don't mind it at all. I know that you had just talked about it earlier. Like, why is it not Rhett Lauder? Why is it not Chase Petty? Yeah,
Chase Burns.
Cynically, I think we may have touched on this also before in a previous episode. But cynically, I think it's just like service time Like, Carson Spires is already kind of past that service time limit. But Rhett Lauder and Chase Burns obviously haven't, and neither is Chase Petty. So, if there's a scenario that if Spires goes 2 or 3 starts, not really great, I think he's still got options. So there's possible opportunity for him to be sent down, and then mid-April, when that service time limit hits, they might get Rhett Lauder up. They might get Chase Petty up. They might get a Lion Richardson up. A company man like that to fill in. So I don't want that for Carson Spires. I think he's had a great spring, and he looks like he's got his stuff going pretty well. And I think that fills out the rotation pretty well. You got basically righty, lefty, righty, left. Well, could use another lefty in there with Abbott, but if he's starting to come back in April, then maybe that's the option. Maybe if Spires is struggling, he gets optioned down or gets put in the bullpen, and one of the bullpen guys gets optioned down, and Spires becomes a long reliever or whatnot. I can very well see that being a possibility, and I don't mind it at all. How do you feel about Carson Spires being named the 5th starter?
Yeah, I like Spires. I mean, there's no way he's going to be the 5th starter past June, I would imagine. But I mean, he's serviceable. He's got a good pitch mix. He's got a filthy sweeper. He had an ERA in May and June of last year below 4. It was like 3.5.
Okay.
But post All-Star, he had an ERA over 7. That concerns me. I think guys figured him out. I think he didn't expect to start as much as he did. He was that kind of that long relief guy at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
I think with him preparing, I think he's been preparing as a starter all spring, fighting for that 5th spot, and I think he earned it, honestly. I don't think they would have named him the 5th starter if he didn't earn it. Mm-hmm. Even if Abbott was healthy, I think if he was, because I think his ERA is below 4 in the spring. He's got over 10 strikeouts in 10 innings. Like, I like the guy. I think he's a good fit.
Yeah, for sure. He definitely, I think, fits that mold of guys that can be flexible within this roster, within this bullpen / starters. Like, we got Martinez, who we could very well see become the long reliever, eat up innings. We got, Suter, who could be that, opener potentially in some instances and eat up innings if a guy goes down, like you said, like that Frankie Montes situation, he gets hit in the elbow. You know what I mean? Like, we got, I think flexibility is a thing that obviously we hear a lot with the Reds roster makeup, the way that Krall and Meter go about it. And it's a good thing in some instances, because you could have that opportunity of, you can option Alexis Diaz down and have a guy step in like Ashcraft, or you can have Spire step in to be the starter, but then later on, because he has some struggles after the All-Star break, be the long reliever or the innings eater or a spot starter if you really need it. So, like, flexibility can be a good thing, especially at Cincinnati being kind of a smaller market team. You don't have the ability to buy your mistakes or erase your mistakes with money. So you got to have these kind of guys that, I don't mean it as an insult, but like, having guys like Lion Richardson and, Ian Jabot be company men to go out there for you when you need them the most, like that. You need those kind of guys in a long season. Baseball is a long season. So I wish the best for Carson Spires. I really hope he gets out there and he pitches well, because, the Reds will definitely need that when they have, what I think is a pretty formidable starting pitching. And, it not necessarily, as we'll touch on later, not necessarily blow the cover off the ball type of offense. But just like last year, I think starting pitcher is going to hopefully play a huge role and be able to give us the best opportunity to win ball games.
Yeah, for sure. And we're going to talk about this in a minute, but I think we talked, I think the last episode in the bullpen, we talked about not wanting openers. And I think the bullpen that we have kind of goes in our favor. I think there's not really that bona fide long relief guy unless Ashcraft is that guy. But if he's going to be a back of the bullpen guy, I think you could probably, I think Suter would be that guy that could go multiple innings, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, Carson Spires, could be that unsung guy that we're going to talk about him and maybe a couple other people here. There's a couple guys I think that could really be an under the radar, get the job done, but not be that superstar. And I think I like Spires a lot. He's kind of got the world against him right now. Reds fan base wants their up and coming prospects, and Carson Spires. Why Carson Spires? And then another guy I like a lot is Stuart Fairchild. I think him being that right-handed, off the bench bat and the guy you could put in center field defensively with Friedel needs a day off. And he's probably going to play right field a lot too. I mean, he's a defensive highlight reel. If he can just get his bat going, I think he was a 3 WAR player or it was between 1 and 3 WAR last year. And that's pretty good for a guy that didn't start as much and played really when he shouldn't have because of injury.
Yeah, I like Fairchild. Not having the best spring, hitting 147, but I think we know what he brings. He's not going to be that guy that's going to bat 300 or, be an everyday kind of player. Definitely, like in an ideal world, you'd have, Stevenson started catcher and you have the defensive replacement Trevino to come in the 8th and 9th inning when you need to make sure you're, catching the ball behind home plate. Same thing kind of with Fairchild. In the outfield, you got guys that, Fraley's a decent defender, Friedel's a decent defender, Hayes decent defender, but like Fairchild is the best defensive outfielder that we have. So having him come in like a late game replacement is kind of the ideal spot. The spots start every so often. Maybe the getaway days where guys are getting rest or whatever. Coming off the bench as a pinch hitter, a pinch runner. I think maximum like output for a guy like Fairchild, if he goes like 15 home runs, 15 stolen bases, I think that's maximum output that we would gladly take in Cincinnati out of a guy that, and hopefully that 15 and 15 is not coming because he's playing 140 games. You know what I mean? Like I want that to be kind of clearly. He did what he was very serviceable in 2024. Like you said, he was above average replacement player defensively, and then I think he had a 1.0 WAR. So, like, he was a bright spot in a team that had a lot of guys with negative WAR numbers. But we don't, like, it's almost like a gift and a curse. If he's out there, hopefully it's because of the reasons we're talking about, not because, Friedel's out for an extended period of time or Fraley's out for extended or hate, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. So, my guy that's unsung to pivot is Espinal. Much like Fairchild, we want this guy to be coming off the bench, filling in when needed, not necessarily a guy that's playing every single day. He's another one of those former All-Stars, 2022 All-Star with the Blue Jays, I believe. The Reds like collecting these kind of guys like Hayes and Ty France and whatnot, former All-Stars, the guys that are trying to bounce back and make a name for themselves. But I think he fits perfectly in that utility role. I know that Steer's out, so I think that makes his job that a little bit more important. I don't necessarily like how they deploy him, putting him out in the outfield a lot. Like, I feel like he's an infielder through and through. It's where he was as an all-star. But his spring has been pretty decent. 43 at-bats, 256, batting average, a home run and 2 stolen bases with the OPS is 746. And if he hits that for the season, that's fantastic. You know what I mean? Like, I don't expect him to rip the cover off the ball or, you know what I mean? I think he's a above replacement player for defense. So, like, if he's a late game defensive replacement type of player throughout the year, absolutely exactly what we need out of him. Exactly what I think, if that's the case, if he's that role, then that means our other guys are healthy and hopefully executing, and he's not having to go out in center field and play in the outfield or anything like that. So, do you have any other guys that you're looking at for unsung heroes?
You got me on Espinal. I keep leaving him off. I don't know why, because I love Espinal.
Yeah.
Looking at his splits, last year he had 264 at home and 229 on the road. So he could be that home platoon guy. And I think he set a career high in stolen bases. He he had a. I just lost my notes. He had 246 last year, which he hit 311 and 21 when he got called up in Toronto. He had a career high in home runs. Like he's a guy that he's like I like about Hayes. He's that hard nose, put your nose down, work, don't show off. Even though he did pimp a home run in Pittsburgh last year, that was a wall scraper. I'll never forget it. I like what you said about the outfield. I think I'd like to see him be that second base, third base, shortstop. If you need him, rotational piece. And he didn't do terrible in the outfield. I don't think he's going to be that guy like a shoot me a name. India. If India would have played in the outfield, I think he'd be more serviceable than India.
Yeah,
he's probably on par defensively with Steer, and Senzel, is who I was thinking of. I think moving him around like Senzel, I don't think it's going to affect him as much as it did him, just because this is what fifth season coming in this year.
Yeah,
he's age 30 this year. I think we have him under control at least through the end of this year. So, if everything works out, maybe he could be a guy that could stick around and be that bench piece that we need, because I really like Espinal a lot, and I get a lot of heat on Twitter about it. Just I can go back and forth with people about like, yeah, he's a good player, and then they post his baseball savant stats, and it's like he's got a high whiff rate. It's like, yeah, but he's not playing every day. You don't want the guy playing 140 games. And last year he had 357 at bats. If he has that many this year, something's wrong. If he's around 250, 300 at most, I like what we got going on. With that being said, do you have any concerns about the offense that we have right now? Is there anybody that you're like, man, hopefully this guy can get going, or is this guy going to be the guy we thought he was?
Yeah, not more generally than anything. I think the Reds had like a pretty decent start. Like we're talking about like the first opening or the first game for spring training, like 3 or 4 guys, and I think even Ellie had 2 home runs in the first spring training game, and we're like, oh, all right, the Reds are gonna
MVP.
Right, the Reds are gonna kill it this year. But then, like, I think the last couple games, the last week at least, it's kind of cooled off. There's been like blown save opportunities out of the bullpen, which is, it harkens back to the old days where the Reds were they didn't have enough. So I guess my most like overarching thing is like, the Steer injury, the Stevenson injury, those two kind of concern me on the offense, because those two were positive WAR players last year, and not having them in the lineup, not having them, opening day, makes me a little concerned, at least for the first month of this season. Ellie's going to do Ellie stuff. Hopefully Friedel's going to be in the lineup every day. McLean, if he is to what a lot of people are predicting, is going to be fine. Hayes is kind of that wild card where he looks good this spring. They got that prove it deal with him, so he's going to probably play his hardest, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to have the production that we need. So there's kind of like a, like there's this, not sure what this offense is going to look like. There's also kind of not necessarily, I wouldn't say a concern, but like a philosophy change. I think with Tito and David Bell, there's a little more rigidity. I think David Bell was a little more open, and he gets labeled that player's coach, but they were the running Reds last year, and sometimes that just means they ran into outs. They ran when they probably shouldn't. And, I think Fangraphs, Picoa, like, predict that Ellie's not going to steal as many bases, like maybe in the 50 range. And Ellie's even been on record, I think. He's not necessarily looking to break, like, Ricky Henderson type records, but he's looking for, like, that 90% steal rate. Trying to like be a little bit more efficient. And we talk about that in like other sports, and baseball's full of that kind of like analytical type stuff. And I think that's a good goal for Ellie to like try not to, eliminate the unnecessary outs, the unnecessary situations where he, could get thrown out. So like, I don't know. it'll be good to kind of to pull back and not necessarily give away outs easily on the base pass or with strikeouts and stuff like that. Hopefully that kind of stuff will be improved from last year. And obviously I think that's another thing we talk about with Benson a lot is like strikeouts. Like he kind of has that hole in his bat as well. Hopefully in AAA he'll be able to fix that and come up hopefully and provide a spark whenever he does get called up. But I guess my concern mostly is I'm not sure what this offense is really kind of going to look like day to day. We kind of know the guys that are going to be in the lineup. It's just a matter of like, are they going to have enough to win ball games, right? That's my chief concern. And that's very vague, but like I feel like last year that was the case a lot. Like the pitching kept them in games, but they lost a lot of one-run ball games, and they just didn't seem like they had enough. And there were stretches that it felt like they couldn't manufacture any runs. They couldn't buy a run if they wanted to. So that's kind of my thing into 2025. Like, are they going to have enough? Are they going to be able to manufacture runs and not give away silly outs? But yeah, how do you feel about the offense right now?
I like it. I like the 1 through 4 a lot. I guess my real concern really is McLean with his, he's playing well. I'm not saying he's not playing well, but it's just, regular season's a different animal. Is he going to be the guy that we expect him to be? And are we going to be mad at him for not being that guy if he struggles? Because I can't do that to the guy. He missed a year and 4 months. Like he's got that top of the order guy. I really think the potential wise, he is our best hitter. I'll stand by my take with that. I think he's their best hitter on this team. I think Friedel kind of concerns me. Is there going to be regression? This is his age 29 season. He struggled being on the field last year. Just a couple bad breaks. Getting hit in the hand sucks. And he pulled his hamstring diving for a ball. He only had 297 at bats last year. So Espinal had nearly 100 more at bats than Friedel. I'd like that to be the other way around this year. And really, is Ellie going to take that step up? Is strike out, at least cut his percentage down by at least 10%. If he can get in that 20 to 25% strikeout, like that's today's baseball. Everybody strikes out, but just don't be the leader. Don't be the guy that strikes out the most. And that's really my most concerns is just seeing development, seeing guys improve. CES really, and this will be his first full season. He missed a lot of time last year. So, you got anything else you want to add to the offense?
Yeah, not necessarily offense, but the defensive concern as well. Like going along with the theme of like the Reds last year, a bit of undisciplined ball club. They led the league in stolen bases, but it felt like they led the league in giving away outs on the base paths, and it felt like the same kind of way with the defense. You know what I mean? Like Ellie, even just recently, just had a great diving, sliding into the outfield type of catch. So he's going to be above average out type of fielder this year. It's just a matter of like, are we going to like potentially leave out there with silly errors, fielding errors, throwing errors? You know what I mean? I'm not just saying it's just Ellie. You know what I mean? It's everybody. I like to think his defense will improve when he gets his guy McLean back there to turn double plays and whatnot. But the third base is kind of a concern. Jamer is not necessarily above average, third baseman, and Lux is going to be playing third base a lot more than he ever has in his career. So there's concern there. We like to think that Marte will get his, stuff together and be that third baseman. We touched on that before, that he's totally reworking his throwing motion from third base. So, if his hitting is there and his fielding is improved, I think, it would welcome definitely back to the big ball club for that. But, I think the outfield defense is average, but not anything spectacular, which is why, Fairchild has a spot in this club. And I'm not knocking the outfield. I think their hitting is more of my concern. But yeah, if we can not give away silly outs with errors or, any sort of miscommunications out there in the base, out there in the infield or the outfield, I'd like to think that presence of a Tito to sharpen up the foundational stuff, to be smart in situational baseball, stuff like that. Hopefully that is the difference between the 2024 Reds and 2025 Reds, is that we're not talking about the same undisciplined type of play that's happening either on the base pass or with the defense. You know what I mean? I like to think that if we can at least sharpen up that part of the Reds, and be able to be I'm not saying they have to be the Brewers all of a sudden, where they're hitting situationally great and fielding way above average. You know what I mean? I'm not saying like stuff like that, but like a move toward that, I think, is something I'm really hopefully looking forward to. But if it's not happening in the first month of the season, I'm not gonna burn down the boats, or I'm not gonna call for the manager's head if all of a sudden there's some silly plays, or we're making some silly decisions on the base pass or stuff like that. But I'd love to see an improvement there for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. I think our best defensive players day one is Trevino catching, Ellie and McLean up the middle, and Friedel in center. I really like our middle of the diamond. I think that's the most important defensive positions, and I think we got them pretty well. So as of now, who's your? Again, I don't think we really talked about it, but like who would be your fifth outfielder? We got Fraley, Friedel, and Hayes pretty much confirmed. I'm guessing Fairchild's probably confirmed as well. I don't think he has options unless they send him down, unless they're really blown away with Hurtubise and Dunn. So I guess if you had to pick between Hurtubise and Dunn, who are you taking?
I think my guy's Blake Dunn. I think he's shown a pretty good spring training. I think he also has the speed that the Reds kind of like. That was kind of their identity last year. But I think his spring has been solid enough, and he's been a part of the big league ball club enough to kind of be a guy that you can trust on opening day. Not necessarily, I don't know if he's going to play 100 games this year, but with the injury of Steer, and not necessarily having Lux play outfield every single day type of thing, or be even just be that guy. I think Lux will kind of be maybe that sixth outfielder, and also an infielder at the same time to provide some more flexibility. But I think Blake Dunn's definitely the guy that will hopefully be on that 26-man roster, running out in the field opening day, getting announced by Joe Z, and hopefully having a good start this season for the Reds. Who's your any other guys that you think are making the 26-man that may or may not we've not touched on yet?
I can't close the book on Hurtubise. Comparing the two, Hurtubise, 33 at bats, has a 303 average. He doesn't have a home run, but he's not really known for power. He's a really good slap hitter. He's got an OPS of 992 with 5 stolen bases. And then going to Blake Dunn, he's batting 326 and 43 at bats, 2 home runs, a stolen base, and 977 OPS. It's tough, man. Like, do you want the lefty or do you want the righty? It's really what it comes down to. And I'm confident that either way, I think Tito is going to make the right call. Infield wise, I don't know. Is there really? I can't really think of anybody that would really shock us if he wasn't on the club. I think our infield's pretty much set. I think the only shocker would be if for some reason Encarnacion Strand needed development, but he's rushing the ball in spring training. There's no way.
No, yeah, I think as we touched on with our infield episode, it's definitely the most solid unit, also the highest ceiling with some of the guys that are in that unit, with CES and McLean and Ellie. But I think Austin wins. I guess it would be more surprising if he isn't the backup catcher, because his spring has been pretty decent with in 19 at bats, he's 263 with a 792 OPS. And that's, if he can do that as a backup, provide some spots where he's starting maybe on some Sundays or getaway days, stuff like that until Stevenson's ready and healthy again. Like, totally fine with that. I guess it'd be more surprising if it isn't him and it's someone like Banfield, which I think they haven't assigned yet. So we'll see, I guess, in the next coming days. But I guess I'd be more surprised if Austin Wynns isn't backing up Trevino. But what about the bullpen? How's your bullpen looking like? I know we talked about pre-show, some spots kind of up for grabs in that. We know the 5 starters, but the remaining 8 guys is pretty well settled. I think you said 6 out of 8. So we got 2 spots up for grabs. Who do you got for that?
I have Ashcraft, Suter, Pagan, Barlow, Santion, Mole, Rogers, and I want to keep Diaz. He had a scoreless outing today. I think his thing's mostly confidence, and I don't think he really came into spring training in the best of shape. I don't think he was in terrible shape, but I don't think he was as, he was. I think he had an injury coming into, or something. There was something about it that he had to be ramped up to get ready. So I think I really like Ashcraft. I think he's going to be the guy. If I had to throw somebody else, I'd probably lean towards Jabot. It's unfortunate he missed the season last year. I think he came in for maybe a game or 2 at the end of the season, just get him out there. He was really one of our most reliable relievers in 2023. There was some times where, it seemed like when he would come in, if he was inheriting runners, he would let them go. But if he was coming in with an empty base path, he was mowing them down. Or old Fred Elliott rearing lookalike. So I like Jabot.
2025 is an important year for Jabot because 2026 we have the World Baseball Classic again, so he's got to get ramped up for Great Britain to pitch. So I wouldn't be surprised if Jabot is gunning for a really solid 2025 year, but I don't know if he's got much competition in the bullpen at Great Britain. So maybe he just needs to be healthy. So, we'll see. I'm pretty much in the same agreement, except I don't know. Mark Shelton doesn't get a lot wrong. He's the Reds beat writer for MLB.com. So if they're thinking Diaz is not ready and he has options, I think he's still, this is only his age 27 season. So he's still in team control for a couple more years. I don't know. I don't know if that's a sign, kind of like there was that report to Ashcraft and Mole not coming in great shape. I don't know if that's a sign from Tito's going up to these guys and saying, you got to get ready to go by opening day. If you're not, someone else will take your spot. Like, I don't know if that's what's going on, like this type of situation. Like, the best guy available is going to be with the big league club. We're not going to, I don't know, again, not to pawn everything off on David Bell, but we're not going to be the nice guy and just let guys work through stuff all the time because there's ball games to be won. You know what I mean? The minors are for that, right? The minors are for working through stuff. If you're not, and we talk about probably these guys a lot, but I think Marty Brenneman says you're not working on defense once the season starts. You're not working on your pitch location once the season starts. That's for the minor leagues and spring training. If you're playing and the game is to be won, you got to be ready to go and give everything you got. And if you don't have it, then someone else hopefully will and will replace you. So yeah, I think Jabot is possibly that last guy in there for the 2 spots, along with well, we got Spires then taking the 5th spot, but I think it's about mostly the same. Ashcraft, if he's the closer, I don't know if there's going to be a market difference between him and Diaz, but I think at least I like the mentality that there's competition for places. You're not just guaranteed a spot, especially because we talk about in the bullpen episode, there's guys that have good years, they follow up with a bad year, and then the next year they're great again, or they have 2 straight years there. You know what I mean? It's very hard to be on top of your game all the time. They come in limited spots where they have to just get 3 batters, and if they don't, then their ERA blows through the roof. Their confidence probably gets really down, and it's hard. It's the modern game relies on a lot of relief pitchers, especially, now with starters not going as long. Like, you got to have guys that can go out there and eat up innings. And I think, Jabot is one of those guys. I think, having Ashcraft in there with his mentality would be great. And, I think the bullpen with its flexibility, like we talked about before, is in a good spot. There's hopefully that, when they get their opportunities, they get the job done. And we're talking about having another winning April and hopefully another winning month of May going into, the Reds' favorite month of the year, June.
Yeah, we can't have another May of 24. That was brutal. I think we lost 7 straight series and only won maybe 8 or 9 games. It was pretty bad. The one thing I'll note, going back to Diaz and that Graham Ashcraft quote, Ashcraft seems like a guy that wants it. And he got sent down last year. I think he realized that, my job's not safe no matter what I'm doing. But I don't think Diaz has had that pressure put on him yet. He hasn't really, he struggled, but he hasn't really been sent down or quote unquote punished. And I don't want to make it seem like, going back down to AAA is a punishment. I think it's the best thing that can happen to guys. Look at Will Benson in 2023. I think he was batting under 100 up, and then he got sit down in May. Comes back up and hits his first career home run as a walk-off. What a way to come back. If Diaz can go down to AAA, get right, maybe get that fire in him, because you don't ever hear quotes or anything coming from him being that guy who's like, I come in every day like my job depends on it. I think like greats like Mariano Rivera and Trevor Hoffman and Eric Gagne and all them guys, like, they had to do what they had to do because they could lose their job. And I don't think David Bell really, I don't want to make this like a David Bell hate episode, but
yeah,
I don't think that he's a player's manager. I don't think he's going to put the pressure that needed to be pressured on him. And I think Tito is going to be that guy to do it.
Yeah, for sure. I think, Tito has mentioned it, that you're just going to get the best guy available to get the job done. Doesn't matter who you are or what you've done in the past. So hopefully that's the mentality throughout the whole season. I know it's hard sometimes because, like I said, the small market type team like Cincinnati, we can't just buy out of our problems, but we definitely have at least a decent enough farm system, which we will be touching on the farm system in our next episode, to at least supplement what we got at the majors, given or barring any, major injuries going through the season, which will happen. But I think we're at a pretty good spot with the 26-man roster, and we'll see, I guess, what our predictions, if they'll come to be true. I mean, you're already 1 for 1, and Ashcraft being the potential closer. So hopefully you can keep your takes going. I mean, the McLean one, I think, will make you 2 for 2 for sure once he comes out of the gate hitting 500.
Let's hope.
Yeah, for sure.
And with that being said, follow Red Hot Reds podcast on all social medias. They're all on this sticker down below. Go subscribe to Ohio Sports Talk on YouTube. Go follow them on Twitter. They're a great follow. They got a pretty big guest coming up next week, if I want to drop some hints. So, yeah, like, subscribe, do all that great stuff. And Roger, we're going to get out of here.
Go Reds.
Go Reds.
Thank you for watching the Red Hot Reds podcast, presented to you by Ohio Sports Talk.